Hi, creative friends. This is Freya, and thank you so much for being here. So, I was asked a really interesting question on a video that I posted last week. It's where I talk about letting go of realism. So, I wrote down the entire comment in my journal. It's so interesting and juicy, and I'm thinking about how best to answer it. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk about our visual language. What exactly is it? So, in a lot of my videos, I will say things like, this is in my visual language, or I'll say things like, when I use assemblage, it helps me strengthen my visual language. So, what exactly am I talking about? So, for me personally, my visual language, or the concept of visual language, is about how I express myself. So, on one hand, we have the tools of art. These are things like our art supplies, the techniques that we learn, our skills, our knowledge, etc. And then we combine those tools with our heart and our soul and our creativity. What do we want to express, and how do we express them? Now, I have these cards over here. They're called Wide Open Inspiration and Techniques for Art Journaling on the Edge. It's by Randy, and I'm not sure how you pronounce that last name, so I'll leave it in the description below. And I just want to read this card here. So basically, how it works is on, like, here there are all these like different, they're not really prompts, they are just perspectives, and I really love this approach. And on the other side, they have beautiful images. Like, look at that. This is Modigliani, so I absolutely love it. But they just have really interesting kind of images. Like, oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at that. It's just like really inspiring. So I just wanted to read this to you just so you get a different perspective about things. So this one is called Painted Circles. You won't catch me brushing up on Matisse or Picasso. I prefer to research art created by the mentally ill, the homeless, the insane, and the forgotten. They seem to all have one thing in common, the element of surprise, and they stir up a connection that I can't explain. That connection is what I felt when I read about the M&M guy living in solitary confinement with 3 life sentences. He would be the last guy you would think to have his art reviewed in the New York Times, yet his work seemed to resonate beyond steel walls and touch a chord in us we couldn't ignore. And then she goes on to, talk about this. I don't know who exactly this M&M guy is, but, she talks about, and I say she, I don't know, this might be a man who wrote this, who made these cards. And somehow, those of us on the outside connected to the nonsense of it all, for we too live in a world of longings, longing for the future, longing for what once was. Meanwhile, we miss out on today. And then she goes on to talk, or this person, I shouldn't keep on saying she. So anyways, so this is just a really interesting way to kind of approach your art and your trying to figure out your visual language, trying to strengthen it. It was for me, these cards over here. I did use them quite a lot. Now, over here, there's another book. It's called Finding Your Visual Voice, A Painter's Guide to Developing an Artistic Style. And I just wanted to point out one of the exercises here. So this person is Dakota Mitchell with Lee Harone, and I will write the names of these, the books and the cards, the book and the cards. So over here, this exercise is like, find the paintings that appeal to you and say why you are drawn to them. So for me, I picked B, D, and I out of all of these paintings. And I wrote over here, like with this, I love the movement, the freedom, and I also like the different colors on the horses, like it's not a realistic depiction. And over here, this one over here is a still life, and I love everyday items. They speak of elevating the mundane into the sacred. And over here, I just put, I love the human form. I just do. I love faces. I love figures. It just really appeals to me. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with any of these other paintings. It's all very subjective. They just don't appeal to me as much. Out of the landscapes, like out of that landscape, that landscape, that landscape, and that landscape, I prefer this landscape because it's just very surreal, and I like the colors, and I like the I like the kind of like, I can inject my own imagination onto it. I just tend to like stuff like that. So anyways, this is a great book as well. So I just wanted to quickly share with you an exercise that Connie Solera did with us when we were in Oaxaca. So basically we were talking exactly about this, our visual language, finding your voice, you know, things of that nature. So what she did is there were about 10 of us on the retreat, and she cut up all these paintings. You know, they were just all different sorts of art. I mean, I remember there was like the Sphinx, you know, from Egypt, and there was a Matisse, and you know, Van Gogh. They were just like, you know, little she cut up like paintings from different artists and art forms or whatever. There was like hundreds of like, you know, little cut up pieces of these paintings. And she said, okay, like pretend that you only have like a minute to save, you know, these paintings from being destroyed forever. Like you just have to go in there and you had like, you know, a very short period of time, and you just pick up this stuff from the table and just pretend like, you know, there's going to be like a total, I don't know, like a nuclear bomb going off, and you only had a limited time to pick the paintings you would save so that they're not destroyed forever. And, you know, so of course, you know, we go in there, we pick up the paintings that we would save. And then she goes, okay, now sit down and look at the paintings that you pick, you know, really look at the art forms that you picked. And when I looked at mine, and all the other artists looked at the stuff that they had saved, it was so close to their art. And these are things that, you know, are from like, you know, hundreds of years ago, maybe from a different culture. But what Connie said is, she said that we are attracted to the things that we paint ourselves. So if somebody paints landscapes, for instance, they're going to be much more likely to be drawn to other landscapes or some other element of their art. Maybe it's lines. It doesn't even have to be like a landscape to a landscape, but maybe, you know, the lines that you make, you're going to be drawn to those lines. The colors that you use, you're going to be drawn to those colors. And that was so illuminating to me, because it is absolutely true. And that's what you know, when I use my assemblages, so I go into like my daughter's old children's books, and I will look at things that I am drawn to. I'll rip out the page and then I'll cut them into different sizes and shapes. But all the time, I'm drawn to the same things. They're the same colors or similar colors and lines and values. Like I like really light and really dark next to each other because it's just really dramatic. I just love that. I'm just so drawn to it. And so when I do different exercises like that, when I use these cards, when I do the exercises in this book, for instance, then what I'm doing is I'm strengthening my visual language. And the more you paint, the more you, you know, pay attention to what you like. Pay attention to the things that light you up, that set you on fire, that, you know, give you that spark, that joy, that feeling of, oh, I want to find out more. It doesn't have to be something really loud. It can be really quiet and soft and just a whisper. But if you pay attention to it, if you journal about it, if you, you know, say, hey, I'm curious about this, I'm going to find out more. I know like for a lot of my journals, and, you know, they've been published in magazines, and I talk about it in my articles, is that it could be like a line in a book. It could be a book. It could be something that I'm doing. And that will inspire me to make a journal. And so they don't happen overnight. Like sometimes it takes me, you know, years to complete something, but it's that seed that gets planted, and then we water that seed and we pay attention to it. We say, hey, you know what? I really like these lines. I really like, you know, this, the way this artist like puts so much emotion into their work. Now, there are some people who are not drawn to art that has a lot of emotion. They just, you know, they cringe around it. And there are some people who are just attracted to the technical side of art. And that's fine. You know, everybody is so different. There's nothing right or wrong. It's just that, you know, that's what they gravitate towards. I like the imperfect. I like the emotion. I like the wonky, you know, that's just me. I'm drawn to that. So anyways, I could talk about this forever, but hopefully this has given you a little bit of food for thought to figure out, you know, how can you strengthen your own visual language. So anyways, if you've watched all the way to the end, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.